it, hit it.
Hello, my name is Marley Bird and I'm the proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and I'm excited to show you how to make the casual chic vest. This vest uses Red Heart's Chic Sheet by Marley Bird yarn in the color lace. Now, of course, you could choose any color you wish of the 24 options available in Chic Sheet by Marley Bird yarn. You don't have to use lace, and I guarantee you, any color you choose, your vest is going to be awesome. This is an intermediate pattern and it is sized from extra small to 3X. The majority of the pattern is done in stockinette stitch. So if you've done stockinette stitch before, great, you are more than halfway there to be able to succeed with this vest. The little extra bits you'll need to know is how to do some basic shaping, how to do a lovely lace bit for the trim, and then how to finish off your work and do the seaming. All of which I plan on showing you right here in this video. So go ahead, get your free pattern. I'll put a link right down there in the video description box below. And while you're down there, smash that like button, as my kids say. Get your materials, join me back here, and we will jump in so that way you can make this really fantastic casual chic vest. Now that you have the pattern and your materials, let me go ahead and show you the vest itself and walk you through some of the tricky bits that I feel like I could give you a little bit of my expertise with it. The casual chic vest was designed by my friend Brooke Nico to have a very nice and casual fit and flare to the vest portion, and then it has this really great trim section that's done in a really beautiful and easy lace stitch pattern. You'll notice that the trim is not connected the entire way down the vest itself. It's actually connected a partially way up the vest, so that way these trim bits can actually be tied in the front or left loose to hang and be free. Let's take a look down here at this portion here. You would go ahead and you would cast on the number of stitches you need to cast on for the size you're making. Again, you'll find that information in the actual pattern, so make sure you take a look there. Once you've cast on, you'll notice that the very first row has you start with a knit, and then the next row is purl. So you're going to be working in stockinette stitches, and you will do that until it's time to jump into body shaping. And the shaping is done by using a knit two together or an SSK. Once you've worked these decreases, you will then work a set number of rows and work a decrease again. Work a set number of rows and work a decrease again, which can be very soothing because you're working just plain stockinette and then a decrease every so often. But it might be that you get lost and you forget when you do a decrease. So what I like to do is add a stitch marker to the row that I did my decrease on, so that way I have a point of reference that I can count from to make sure I am doing my decreases evenly. Let me show you what I mean. Right here, I am working on the left front, and I have worked up some stockinette, and then I did a decrease right here. And the resulting stitch from the decrease is the one I've actually put a stitch marker into. And then I worked my number of stitches or my number of rows I needed to. I did my decrease right there, which was a knit two together, and I put my stitch marker in the resulting stitch. What that does is I can now count from this stitch that's marked and know when it's time for me to do another shaping row. So this stitch right here is marked is my decrease row. So then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm getting ready to work a row 10, which is when I want to do another shaping or decrease row. So all I'll do here is go ahead and knit my 2 stitches, and then I'll work my knit two together. So I will go into the second stitch and then back through the first stitch on the left hand needle and then knit those 2 stitches together. And then I would just finish down the row. Before I get too far along though, I want to go ahead and I'll take my stitch marker and I will add it directly to that stitch that resulted from the 2 together. Now I have a place in my work that allows me to count back from the row I'm on to make sure that I'm doing my decreases as evenly spaced as indicated in the pattern. Okay, so here's a little tip. I like to keep the stitch markers in place completely through the entire project, straight up through the blocking process. The reason is, after I've done my seaming and it's time for me to add the trim to the fronts of the vest, I have a point of reference on both sides of the vest with these stitch markers that I can line up and make sure that I am seaming the trim around my opening as evenly as possible. Do you have to do that? Absolutely not. This is just a little tip that I am sharing with you to hopefully make your process a little bit easier. Okay. You know stockinette, and you know how to do basic shaping with knit two togethers or SSK, which is the whole premise of the body of the vest. Great. You already know how to do that, so let's not dive into that. But what about that trim? That lace portion might be something completely new to you, because not only is it lace, but it's lace that's worked on the right side and the wrong side of the project. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that lace portion now. For this lace portion, it's done in a really beautiful and wonderful lace stitch pattern that does not curl. So it really lays nice and flat on the front of the body as you're wearing the vest. If you take a look down here, I've done a simple little swatch using the green tea colorway of the lace portion of the trim on the vest. It is worked up with this really great column of purl two togethers and SSKs, depending on which side you're working on. And then the yarn overs give this really great trellis look in between there. Can you see that? Now the way Brooke wrote this pattern is you make both sides of the trim independently and then you'll seam them together literally at the back of the neck. On the last two rows of the lace portion, you work a really special decrease that really gathers the stitches down a little bit and it makes it easier to seam the two edges together. That'll make sense here in just a minute. But why don't I go ahead and show you how to make this lace portion on a section I've already started. As you take a look down here, you can see I've already worked up a nice little section of the lace portion. I figured you already know how to do a cast on, so I'm going to jump right in to the lace bit and give you a little bit to view as we're going along. I'm looking at the right side of the fabric, and I've been referring to this as the trim, and it's called the lapel in the pattern. But I will start off with my knit 3. So I'll knit 1, 2, 3. Now I want to yarn over my needle and I will do an SSK. So I slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, take the left hand needle, put it in the front leg of those 2 stitches, yarn over my right hand needle, come out and off. Then I'll knit 1 stitch. And that's my repeat for the entire row. I yarn over my needle, slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, left hand needle into both of those stitches, yarn over, out and off, and then knit 1. So let's repeat again. Yarn over my right hand needle, work an SSK, and then knit 1. Let me show you how to do that with the yarn in my left hand for those of you who are continental knitters. You yarn over your needle, work an SSK, and then knit 1. Yarn over your needle, work an SSK, and then knit 1. Yarn over your needle, work an SSK, and then knit 1. You've worked the first row of the repeat of the lace pattern. Go ahead and turn your work, and now we're looking at the purl side, and we will also do a lace portion on this side as well. So in the pattern, it has us start off, and let me see, I'll hold the yarn over here in my right hand again, and bear with me because this is not my go-to method of knitting. You purl the first 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3. Now it's time for the yarn over, and it's important you make sure that the yarn is in the correct place when you do the purl 2 together, otherwise your yarn over will disappear. I just finished working these 3 purls, so my yarn is in front. So to do my yarn over, I go over top of my right hand needle to the back and then bring the yarn back to the front. So I have a full wrap around that needle. Now I can do my purl 2 together. So I purl into those 2 stitches together. And when I do that together, I will purl the next stitch. Now I have to do a yarn over again. My yarn's in front. Go over my right hand needle and then back around. See, it's a full wrap around. Purl 2 together, and then purl 1. I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand, then you'll see it won't look so awkward for me. So I'm going to yarn over my needle, just like so. You see that? Yarn's in front. I go over top of my needle, bring it back to the front, purl 2 together, and then purl 1. Yarn over my right hand needle, purl 2 together, and then purl 1. Yarn over my right hand needle, purl 2 together, and purl 1. Yarn over, purl 2 together, and then purl 1. I'm going to show you the right side one more time and the wrong side one more time, just so that you can see without having to rewind. So let's go through this one more time. I've turned my work. I'm back to the right side of my fabric. I will go ahead, knit 3 stitches, and then onto my repeat. I yarn over, SSK, and then knit 1. Yarn over, SSK, and then knit 1. Yarn over, SSK, knit 1. Yarn over, SSK, knit 1. Yarn over, SSK, knit 1, yarn over, SSK, and knit 1. Turn your work. You're on the wrong side. So this one you will start off with a purl 3. So 1, 2, 3. Then we start our repeat. Yarn over, purl 2 together, and purl 1. Yarn over, purl 2 together, purl 1. Yarn over, purl 2 together, purl 1. Yarn over, purl 2 together, and purl 1. Yarn over, purl 2 together, purl 1, yarn over, purl 2 together, and purl 1. Okay, so you would continue this until your lapel measures the measurement given on the actual pattern, and then you will do 2 more rows. Those are the shaping rows I mentioned earlier. And it's really going to gather the stitches up a little bit, and you're going to get down to fewer stitches, and it'll make it easier to seam the lapel, the 2 sides of the lapel together, and then add that to the body so that it becomes the trim. Okay, so let's take a look at those 2 rows. So on this first one here, you will knit 3. So you'll knit 1, 2, and 3. And what you'll notice here is that we no longer are going to do a yarn over. So we will do an SSK and a knit 1, an SSK and a knit 1. So we are decreasing stitches down this row. So we will have fewer stitches at the end of this row than before. I'm going to change hands so you can see this. So we have an SSK and a knit 1, an SSK and a knit 1, and an SSK and a knit 1. Okay, so at the end of that row, you now have 15 stitches. We started off with 21, now you have 15. You turn your work, and then we have to go ahead and we will purl 1, and then we purl 2 together all the way down the row. So we don't have anything else, we just do the purl 2 togethers all the way down the row. Okay, let me show you with the yarn in my other hand too. Once again, remember, this is not my go-to, so it's a little bit sloppier for me, but my yarn's in front, and I'm purling 2 together. Once you've done that, it's time to bind off loosely. And all that really means is make sure they're not like super tight because you want a little flexibility in your work. But if you bind off just in a nice, comfortable way, you'll be good. So what I like to do is I will knit 2 stitches, have the back stitch jump over the front and off. Knit 1 stitch, back stitch jumps over the front and off. Knit 1 stitch, back jumps over the front and off. Knit 1, so on and so forth down this row. And you'll notice on that last row we did decreases as well. So we ended with 8 stitches. So you're only binding off 8 stitches here. Once you get to the last stitch, go ahead and cut your yarn, give it a nice pull. And then what I like to do is go ahead and weave in my tails before I go and block. So I would weave in my ends, okay, really nice and neat. And then I would go and I would wash and block this or steam block it, either one. You will want to go ahead and block this piece along with all the other pieces that you've made. It is much easier to seam blocked pieces together than unblocked pieces. You'll notice that even in the pattern, Brooke suggests that you block the pieces and then you do all the seaming. So once you have all the pieces and you've blocked them, it's time to use the mattress stitch to seam these together. So let me show you how you would do the mattress stitch at the top where you will seam for the shoulder, and at the sides where you will seam for the side, and then how you will join the trim pieces together as well. You're to the finish line of this wonderful vest, so let's make sure that our finishing is the best it can be. If you take a look down here at the actual seam on the sweater itself, you'll see that the stitches from one shoulder to the next shoulder look like they just flow right into each other, and that's because the designer, Brooke Nico, used Mattress Stitch to do the join. And you want to make sure that you join your pieces at the shoulder first. So you'll join the back to both the left front and the right front shoulders. So let me show you how to do the Mattress Stitch on the shoulder portion. Right here, I have 2 very simple swatches done in stockinette. And when you seam your pieces together, you want to make sure you're using the same color yarn as you used on your project. I'm using a different color today, so that way you can see how the stitches are working into these 2 swatches as I'm showing you. To start, you want to make sure you have a length of yarn that is long enough to get through the entire seam. You don't want to have to add new yarn because you ran out. Go ahead and thread your yarn onto your bent tip tapestry needle. I love these ones with the bent tip because it really helps get into the stitches that I want to get into. And then we will begin. I like to come over here and starting at the bottom, right underneath into that first 2 bars right there, I go ahead, put my needle through and bring it up. Then I go to the corresponding side at the same point, going from the bottom and coming back up. Now I will do that one more time just to get the figure 8. So I go back over here where I originally went in and come back up. That just really gives a nice secure figure 8 portion to my yarn, and I'm ready to begin. What I want to do here is I will come over here to this side and working underneath those 2 bars, okay, so those are the 2 bar stitches. Can you see those? I'm going to bring the yarn underneath those 2 bars and pull the yarn up. Then I come over here, going in where my yarn came out and going underneath 2 bars once again. I will put my needle in and then pull up. Coming back over here, going in where my yarn came out, pulling up 2 bars, and thread the yarn through. You just work this method of going back and forth, making sure you pull up 2 bars as long as everything is even along the way. It could be that if you're, for whatever reason, one side seems to be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller than the other, you might have to make adjustments. And so maybe on one side, you only have to pick up 1 bar in order to make the 2 ends stay together. You'll know what it is. It's a little bit of finesse that goes on with the finishing. But more than anything, you just want to make sure that the two pieces are staying nice and evenly done as you're seaming them together. Just stay nice and even. And as you go along and you pull the stitches, they will become nice and even. So I want you to watch this. I can go ahead and I could pull all of these really nice and snug. And see how that comes together? Really nice and even. So if you do this at your shoulder seam, you get a really nice finish on the front of your fabric. It leaves a very small inside edging area that you can then use your tail and weave into that nice little edging because it's a salvage. So that's how you do the shoulders. Now what about the sides? Because then you're working in rows, not just stitch for stitch. Let me show you how that works. As we take a look at the finished sample down here again, you could probably barely see where the seam is, and that's because of the beautiful mattress stitch. You can see right here the shaping points that matched up really great along the way as Brooke seamed this together. And if I had my stitch markers there, it'd be really great because I could make sure that my 2 points are even along the way. But inside, here's the really nice, really subtle seam that is resulting from the mattress stitch. So let's learn how to join these two edges together. I'm going to bring in my swatch yet again, and I'm going to rotate it to the side so that way we're joining one side to the other. Go ahead, again, you want to make sure you have a length of yarn that will get through the entire seam. You don't want to have to rejoin your yarn. And we will do this the exact same way in that I will come up over here on the right side, and you could come up on the left side first. It really doesn't matter. I just tend to go to the right side, come up on the opposite side, and then I do that one more time just to get my figure 8. I like the figure 8 when I was taught how to do this type of finishing. Can you see the figure 8 right there? I was told that this is just a really great way to start, so I tend to always do that. Now, just like before, how we picked up 2 legs of the stitch, with this one, we'll pick up 2 rows, 2 bars, okay? So let me lift this up a little bit. I'm going to start over here and working down the same column. You want to make sure whatever column you work down, it's the same on both sides and it's consistent. So I'm going to come over here and I came into this column. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to come up. Can you see that I have 2 bars right there? So I went in and I came up and it's like I'm between the stitch and I have 2 bars and I'll pull that on up. Now I come over here to the opposite side, go in where I came out, make sure I'm in there, and then come up. See where I have 2 bars? And then I'll pull that up over there. Come over here, come in where you came out, go up, see the 2 bars? And then just keep doing this back and forth all the way up the side seam. Okay? As you're doing this and you have shaping, you want to make sure that you're keeping a nice and even consistency to your join because it will show, okay? Just make sure you're staying in that same column of stitches, those working all the rows through that same column. And that will make it so that it is as seamless as possible. Let me get in here and get the 2. I'm accidentally grabbing a little bit extra there. There we go. Now, just like before, okay, so it looks like I have this really great weave going on. If I take my yarn and I give it a nice pull, look at how those 2 sides come together and it really looks absolutely seamless. Just like we saw on the actual sample. The 2 rows come together and it looks seamless. It's super simple. The 2 big things when it comes to finishing is 1, make sure you block your pieces. It makes seaming pieces together so much easier. And 2, really take your time. The finishing can really make or break a project, and you're dealing with a vest that is done in really simple stockinette, so any flub or mistake is really going to show up. So take your time and make sure that you do this appropriately. Now that you know how to join at the shoulder and join the side seam, let's take a look at how we would join the finishing part of the lapel, the trim, and then how would you join that trim or the lapel to the vest. Let me show you that now. Okay, let's take a look at the finished sample so you can see what I mean about the back of the lapel at the back of the neck of the vest. As you take a look down here, you can see that I have a lapel right here and a lapel right here. This is the trim I was talking about. And right up here, you can see where it's brought down a little bit. Okay, see how it's brought down a little bit? And then the lapel itself is seamed together. And that's the portion we're going to do right now. The reason this needed to be done is because we don't want to have to seam together any sort of yarn overs. We wanted to get back to where we just had some plain stockinette stitches to seam together. Plus, this really makes the piece gather up really nicely at the back of the neck as you're wearing it, so it doesn't fold over on itself. It just makes it lie very nice and neat. So let's do that part now. Once again, I'm going to bring in my two little swatches, and you saw me finish one of these, and I am bringing over my yarn and my tapestry needle. I'll remind you once again, make sure the length of yarn is long enough to get through the entire seam. We will join just like before, and what you're going to find here is this particular join is identical to what we did on the shoulder seam. And the reason is because we did those 2 rows that got us down to those fewer stitches. I think we were down to 8 stitches. What that really did was make it so that we have some nice bars, some legs, I should say, some legs to pick up on either side. So as I'm working with this one first, I can come over here. I joined right there. Let's pick up those 2 bars first. Okay, come through. Come over to this side, and I'm going to go into there and pick up those 2 bars. Come over here, working right along my bind off edge. You can see I have a nice 2 bars right there. Working over here, I have 2 bars right there. I'm going to come over here, finish the last join right here, and do the same over here, and I'm to the end. Okay, so there's my nice join. I can go ahead and give this a nice pull. You can see that even though I used a different color, you can't see it within there. It's all joined together. Once the 2 pieces of the lapel are seamed together, it looks a little something like this. The edges kind of curve in towards the top where we did the fewer stitches, and then of course your lapels are much longer than mine. Mine kind of looks like a bow tie. Now what you would want to do, let's use a little imagination here. Let's imagine that my little swatch right here is the back of the vest. Okay, so this is the back of the neck. What I would like to do is take a stitch marker and mark the very back of the neck, okay? That'll make things really easy for you as far as distinguishing where this little center seam needs to be, okay? You see that? So if I mark the back of the neck and know that this marker needs to coincide with that part right there, I now can go ahead and using this nice edge of stitches right there along my lapel, join it to the nice edge right here. Once this is all joined together, all it would do is it would carry on. You would get to where there was the shoulder seam, and then just like before, as this lapel kind of goes around, it would join up once again, just like we did row for row all along, and it joins and this lays flat, okay? So what I like to do is I like to seam this up in 2 steps. I start at the center back and then work down one front, and then I start at the center back again and work down the other front. By doing it this way, you don't need a super long thread to seam everything together, and it just makes it easier taking it all in steps. So here at the start, what I like to do is I would join my yarn over here with my figure 8, okay? So I'm going to join it over here with my figure 8 and call that good, okay? So now what I want to do is I will go to the opposite side over here, and I'm working with stitches, right? So I will make sure that I grab the 2 legs of the stitch I want to follow along. And then come over here. And on this side, I'm working with rows while I'm working through the back. So I want to make sure that I'm going in and I'm picking up 2 bars. Now it will be that you cannot just go stitch for stitch and row for row. So you will have to make some adjustments along the way where maybe you pick up only 1 bar, or maybe only 1 stitch, or 1 leg of the stitch. You will have to make those adjustments along the way. Oh, don't do what I just did where I went around my yarn there. I don't want to do that. And then I just come down and pick up the bar. The big thing here is you just need to make sure that your lapel is joined without getting squished up and it just lays nice and flat. There's a little bit of finessing that has to go on with this, and you do what's best for you and the way your stitches look. But as you go along, you'll be able to see where things are bunching up or if you need to make adjustments along the way. One of the things that you can do is go ahead and pin your pieces together to know where you want them to join. So that way you're making sure that all of the pieces are staying together nice and even along the way. You'll notice with that one, I only went through 1 bar, and it's because things are starting to cinch up on me here a little bit. So I'm just going through the bars. Anyways, once you have joined 1 lapel, you go ahead and join the 2nd lapel. I do want to remind you that the lapels are not joined all the way down the front of the vest. There is a point where the lapels are left alone, okay? So you only join them to a certain point and you don't join after that. That allows the lapels to be free-flowing, or you can tie them in the front and wear it as a really nice kind of tie vest. It's a really nice subtle feature that was done by Brooke that I think is beautiful, and it was a fun thing when the model was trying on the vest. Okay, so I really feel like you have everything you need to know as far as how to make this vest, and I hope that you will make it. If you do, please share with me on social media, just #MarleyBird, and show me what you have been working with, or show me what colors of Chic Sheep yarn you chose to make your vest in. If you want to learn more about this pattern or Chic Sheep, make sure you follow the links in the video description box right down there below, and once again, please smash that like button, as my kids say. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. Thank you. Everything you need to know about knitting or crochet can be found right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. Learn with Marley Bird. Visit youtube.com/Marley Bird.